Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Odyssey podcast, where me and Randy trek through cinema on a quest to find the best film ever made. This season, we begin our journey by counting down the AFI top 100 films of all time. So come and join us on this Film Odyssey as we talk about Swing Time. So, Randy, how you doing?
Can I just get the line from the producers out of my head so I don't have to, think about it for the rest of this?
Sure.
It's swing time for Hitler and Germany. Alright, we don't have to do that anymore, because every time I mention swing time, it's all I can think of is a line from the producers.
Yeah, because Mel Brooks' producers is fantastic.
It's very good, but it has nothing to do with this movie.
Not even a little bit.
The swing time isn't even actually what they say in the producers, it just sounds like it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we have swing time. I'm gonna get something out of the way here. I did not like this movie.
Didn't like it?
Did not like this movie.
Really?
I thought it was actually the movie that I liked the least out of all the movies we watched so far.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Although I think I have a kind of a cop-out answer as to why I don't like it.
Why?
Extremely dated. There's only very, very few timeless moments in this movie.
I mean, the dance sequences are pretty timeless, except one that's...
But the thing is, though, I thought that dance sequence was actually the best one. Because it is. It just is.
Yeah. So,
and to not beat around the bush, we are talking about the Bojangles dance sequence. Yeah, Bojangles of Harlem dance sequence in Swing Time, which you can maybe tell by the title. So Fred Astaire does that dance number in blackface.
I mean, it's tan face, but it's a pretty black tan face.
Yeah, but you can see what they're getting at.
Yeah.
But, on stage, I think it's blackface. And then when they're in the room, I think it is. They, swap it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come off, too weird in the backstage part.
Yeah.
Which is, whatever.
I mean, hey.
But, unfortunately, because...
This movie was made in 1936.
But the unfortunate thing is that it stains the performance there because of current political sentiments. But that was actually the best dance number in the whole movie. And it's just you couldn't swap the blackface onto a worse dance number.
It really sucks. It really does suck.
Because that's the one where Fred Astaire goes all out.
Where he dances with the shadows.
Yeah, he danced with the shadows, which must have been a great movie-making technique back then.
Well, do you want to know, the thing about that?
Oh, yeah, if you actually know, I'd love to know.
Well, I have a little bit of it. So, Fred Astaire, when he was doing that, he prepared that dance number, and it took 3 full days of shooting to complete. And the reason it took so long is because Fred Astaire had to do each one of those shadows. He's dancing that individually, and they filmed it in rear projection. So when they're dancing in sync, it's him dancing in sync with himself.
That's actually badass.
Yeah, no, Fred Astaire,
so bad. I could tell,
unironically, is one of the best dancers in Hollywood history.
I could tell that they were slightly off. They weren't all the same. They were slightly off, but really, really close. As you would see if an actual choreographed dance between 3 or 4 people, where you can tell it's different people, but it's really fucking close. That's actually impressive that wow.
Yeah, and
fucking Fred Astaire, man.
Not only that, when they did that rear projection and everything like that, Fred Astaire insisted every dance number he ever did was in one take. So if he messed up, he was like, no, start from the top. We're not just crossing in.
Yeah.
So if they did that whole thing, he had to do all of them in sync with himself in 3 different giant shadow things with himself.
And then film the one where he's out in front of all of it.
Yes. And on that note, I think it was the last dance number with Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, where it's the big, we're truly in love and,
yes,
the worlds are coming apart kind of thing. I think they did that one 84 times.
Wow.
Or it's either 84 or 48. I can never remember the exact number. A shit ton of times,
they did a lot.
Ginger Rogers' feet bled during it.
Wow.
Because, she did it in fucking heels.
Yeah, yes,
and,
yes.
Fred Astaire is a kind of a perfectionist, and that's kind of why his movies, the dance sequences, hold up really, really well, is because uncompromising.
He would not take anything less than the best.
Yeah, and Ginger Rogers is also,
really
the
good.
Greatest dance partner you could have at this time. These are probably the most famous duets you could have possibly had in a movie. In terms of, the dynamic duo of musical theater,
yes,
these are the best you can get.
Yeah, and they really showed that, they were the best part of this movie, hands down.
Oh, easily.
Them, the sets, and the dance numbers were great. Everything in between them, I could leave without...
I'll inform everybody about the plot
so
we can get into it.
We'll bring it back.
Yeah, so...
Lay the ground.
Yeah, so I'll lay the groundwork for everybody and just run through all the, I guess, important bits for context. So the plot of this film, it follows Lucky, played by Fred Astaire, and his sidekick Pops as they travel to New York City to hustle enough money to afford to marry Lucky's spur-of-the-moment fiancée, Margaret. But while in New York, Lucky is swept up into this romance with a dance instructor, Penny, played by Ginger Rogers, and the two dance around their romance and become a very famous performing duo. And things get complicated when the band leader offers to marry Penny, and Margaret shows up to basically call in Lucky's marriage, and comedy ensues, and then it's okay because this is a musical and the two lovebirds, meet at the end.
Yes.
Because it's a 1936 musical.
Yes.
It happens. But yeah, this is the sixth Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers film together out of their 10.
Wow, they made a lot together.
They made a lot together, yeah. And I think this also took the longest out of all of them. It was directed by George Stevens, who we're going to see again. He directed The Western Shane, which is also on this list.
Okay.
But the big thing about this is the box office and critical reception, all that shit.
Sure.
Because the film was released, it has a box office hit of $2.6 million against a $900,000 budget. So in 1936, that means it made $50 million against a $17 million budget.
That's pretty good.
Really good fucking moneymaker.
Yeah.
And it not only made its money back, it also got huge critical praise, consensus that the film perfectly blended the styles of dance, music, charisma of both actors, and made one of the best entertaining pictures of that year. The film won Best Music and Original Song at the Oscars that year, but lost choreography.
The hell?
Yeah, to the film The Great Siegfried. A film that is not on this list, and I couldn't find that much about it. I could actually not find a clip of any of the choreography in it.
Choreography lost. Wow.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
But it did win Best Original Song for, could you guess what song it won for?
No.
The Way You Look Tonight.
That's the original to this?
Yeah. That song, it's original to this, and also, let's be honest, that song is crazy fucking
Really?
famous.
This is the first time that song existed.
Yeah, Best Original Song, that's what it won for.
Wow.
Randy's like, all right, this movie just went up in prestige.
I'm pretty impressed by that. That song's a banger. That's a certified hood classic.
That's the kind of song, if your girl is angry at you, you bust that out on the piano, you're getting back in.
You're getting back in there. Which, I mean, he literally does.
Fred Astaire laid the groundwork for all us boys who are in the doghouse to get back.
True.
But yeah, so that's the basic groundwork for this. But the movie itself, to say the plot of this is paper thin would be generous.
Yes. Yes. This is a movie where I think it would work much better if I saw it in a playhouse and not on a silver screen.
It'd probably be a fantastic, stage musical.
Yeah.
Probably amazing.
But on the screen, it just doesn't work quite the same, all of the jokes come off as too corny, kind of cringy, only some of them are still hold up today.
There's not a lot of stone cold classic one-liners in this, like we had in Yankee Doodle Dandy, because even Yankee Doodle Dandy, which is going to be the movie we compare this to a lot.
I mean, they're the most similar,
because at least in that it's James Cagney had a shit ton of charisma. Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers have a lot of charisma, but I don't think it's the same brand of charisma.
Well, no. Here's the thing. I think this is what you're thinking of, but you're not connecting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that this movie isn't just Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, while the other movie, Yankee Doodle Dandy, was just
James Cagney.
Was just James Cagney, and the secondary characters in this movie are more prominent and not as good.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, we'll talk about, I guess, the other major players in this, which is Pops and Mabel. They're the sidekicks of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Yes.
And they had this same, will they, won't they relationship.
Yeah, it's kind of just on the side.
Yeah, and it's, cute. They're the ones who give a lot of, the comedic relief going on. Mabel's kind of this... I like Mabel because she's this just jaded savage sometimes.
Yeah, she's, this little snarky older girl, you know?
And Pops... I need to know, is Pops a bumbling drunk? Because he's playing it like he's blasted, but we never see him drink.
Well, Dean, that would just be uncouth. Somebody to drink in a film.
I mean, we don't see our leads kiss in this movie either.
Except in the end.
They cover it. I think that was because Fred Astaire was married and he didn't want to kiss somebody that he wasn't married to.
What a wholesome lad.
Made in 1936, for God's sakes.
True.
Yeah.
See, Fred Astaire didn't even want to kiss another lady on screen.
Blackface was okay, though.
Well, yeah, of course.
Jesus
But
Christ.
Victor Moore playing Pops, he, drinking on screen, now that would just be unchristian of me.
Of course.
And also, his character makes the most cringiest things in this movie, which is probably just like, it's one of those things where it's like, on stage, you might get like a chuckle out of it because, it's so ridiculous, but it doesn't come off the same in a movie.
It's also the thing in like a stage setting, if somebody's making a joke that they know is corny or kind of cringy, and they just lean into the audience, that wink and nudge where it's like, we both know this is kind of cringy, but like, come on.
Yeah. It makes it work. While Pops just kind of has to like sit there and grin and bear it, and so does us as the audience go, oh yes, of course.
Which is, again, I feel that's a thing where this film is, almost 100 years old? It's like 80, 90 something?
It would be like 85 years old.
Okay, actually, wait a minute, this is as old as Grandma.
This is as old as Grandma, yes.
And she would probably fucking love this movie.
She probably would.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, is the brand of comedy this is working in, this framework, might not age that well, but I think...
Some of the jokes, mostly the jokes made by Mabel, are still good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some of those jokes still hit pretty well, but it's just like the Pops character has kind of just completely died off in cinema.
I mean, I don't know if he's died off, but it's definitely evolved to a different thing. Usually if you have a bumbling drunk character, they're a lot more slapsticky.
Yes.
And he's trying to fast talk, different kind of comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I guess we'll just go through it. We can both agree that the plot of this is paper thin. Some of the side characters are a little dated, but the main attraction here, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers.
And the dance sequences.
The dance sequences, which, godly good.
Oh, so good. They were just so impressive and good. And the staging, the way they filmed everything during those dance sequences was just... Mwah! All the musical sequences were great.
Every last one.
Even the musical sequence where they don't dance... what is it called?
Romance, I think.
Yeah, the one where they're talking about their romance together.
Oh, A Fine Romance.
So when they're doing A Fine Romance, they're not actually like dancing, but like that cattiness between them where it gets like swapped between Fred Astaire being catty and like kind of like aloof with Ginger Rogers, to then it swaps to being Ginger Rogers kind of catty and aloof with Fred Astaire. I think it's great.
And it's one of those things where I like that number the most because it feels like that one progresses the story the most.
Yes.
Yeah, because
that one actually fits into the story. It's not like they're just dancing on stage because that's what their character does for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something that has to kind of happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's the weird thing because we have a lot of these... We have a couple of musical numbers in here. We have, like, Pick Yourself Up, which is the first one that happens, and I think it's, like, 15-20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And that's like, oh, it's the meet cute scene between Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Oh, it's gonna be so nice. But it's like, the song's okay, it's fine, and then they start dancing.
The song's okay, and then they get dancing, and you're like, oh my.
You're watching, you're like, these guys can go.
Yeah, they're really, really, really good.
It's one of those things where I don't have a whole lot of other things to talk about it, because the dance numbers are done very basic, just set it up, follow the actors and the performers, and you might have like one or two cameras, and it's not shot very flashy, but it's very impressive.
I think the two flashiest things they do with the camera, or with the visual setting, is the shadows in Bojangles, and then the camera craning in Never Gonna Dance at the end, or the final duet.
Yeah.
Between the two of them, which is like a reprise of Never Gonna Dance, where like it follows them up the staircase on the left side, which I thought was actually kind of impressive because it didn't cut.
Yeah.
It went all one take between them like dancing on the floor or whatever, and then they were gonna dance up the side, and it like craned all the way over, and you're like, well, damn, this is a huge soundstage.
Yeah.
Just gigantic.
I kind of like the artifice of these old musicals where you can tell it's a soundstage, you can tell it's this fantasy aspect. And it really lends into the fact this is supposed to be this fantastical romance that's just supposed to be nice and cute and fun.
The thing that kind of like hits it on the head the most, that this is a fantastical romance and like a movie, it's not real in any way, is at the end when Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers get together, and then the guy that was supposed to marry Ginger Rogers, strikes up the band for them. You know, he's like, "Oh shucks, Lucky, you got me again," and like strikes up the band.
I gotta
for
be
this
honest
nice,
with you,
cute
Randy.
couple.
If you were about to marry Ginger Rogers and some guy was like hashtag Studio Girl, like that's not a you fighting him for her
I
hand.
would challenge him for a duel. Like, are you kidding me? And then I'd shoot him before he even turned around.
Randy's over here be like, "Look at Ginger Rogers. I'm gonna fight for her. Come on
now." But it's just one of those things at the end where it's just so cheesy. And it's just one of those things where you're just kind of like, hey, it's the way it goes, you know? Like
it's the other thing where the guy that she's going to marry, what's his name? Ricky Romero. With Ricky, he's that kind of, oh, I'm this refined gentleman who's trying to, you know, marry the lead, you know, the leading lady. But he's not like a dick or anything. He seems to legitimately be in love with Penny.
Well, the thing though is that he's like obsessive.
Yeah.
That's the only like real like negative like character like thing of him.
The only thing we know about him is that he's really in love with Penny. He's a little bit like obsessive about her, but not in any creepy or violent or awkward
and it's one of
way.
those things where it's like, you know, he's obsessive about like wanting to be with Penny, but like Penny doesn't like completely spur him like, get away from me, creep, or anything like that.
She's kind of plays into it a little bit.
Yeah, where she's just like, I'll keep this guy around, you know.
He's the backup when I turn 30.
He's the fall guy, you know. It's one of those.
I really enjoy Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers' chemistry. They're like really fun in the scenes together.
Yeah, they are, especially because they have a little play back and forth, you know, where, you know, oh, you're coming on to me. No, don't do that. Oh, I'm going to come on to you. Oh, no, I wasn't meaning to do that, you know. It's just like they have this nice little chemistry between them, like playing their romance and stuff. And when they like finally kiss in the movie, you know, obviously you don't see them finally like kiss. Yeah. But when they kiss in the movie and then they're both like, oh, wow. Ooh, you know, they're both like so struck by their first kiss, you know, and it's just like, I loved their chemistry together. It's
everything around it.
It's just cringe. Right. Like, I hate to say that. Like, it's such a non-descriptor.
Yeah, where it's like some things that are quote unquote like cringy are, it's like there's different levels of cringe and different meanings of what can be defined as cringy.
And also, it's, you know, some things aren't cringy to some people that are to other people. Like, I'm sure somebody who likes the like older kind of like humor that's in Swing Time with like the Pops character, you know, they watch like a lot of these like comedic musicals and stuff, and they could like make more of that stage play connection right away with Swing Time. I'm sure they would like it a lot more than I did, but I was more ready to watch a movie than somebody's recording of a stage play.
Well, I mean, I think you're not giving it enough credit. This isn't just a, you know, point it at a stage and record. That was a lot more like Yankee Doodle Dandy in literal sections in that movie. There's a little bit.
That happens in this one too.
Well, yeah, but there's a little bit more here. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not flashy in any means in terms of like camera work, but there's a little bit more like cinematic stuff going on. But on that note, because your girlfriend does like theater and musical theater and things like that.
Yes.
You think she'd enjoy this?
Well, also she likes cringy comedy more than me, so yeah.
Well, on that note, Becky, my girlfriend, very much loves these fucking movies. She adores Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and this is one of her favorites. And I'm like, I can kind of see why. That's why I don't want to like trash it too much, because I can see why you like it.
It's so like upbeat and happy, you know, and like even when Margaret comes to like kind of like crash everything, and then they have like that big old laugh in Margaret's like hotel room about like, oh no, I was coming here to break up with you, and he's like, oh really, that's great, that's wonderful, you know, that scene was actually pretty funny. I liked that was good, but it's just kind of like they're few and far between in this movie. Like, I think, all right, I'm gonna just have to say it right out. I hated the Pops character. Like, get him out of this movie.
you just could not get behind Pops.
I couldn't do it. It's just so... It's the humor of the day, where it's like, oh, look at this bumbling buffoon as he tries to help the main character, you know? Oh, what is he gonna do to ruin his dreams this time? And I'm just like, I can't take it. I'm like, if I was Fred Astaire's character, Lucky, I would just be like, Pops, stay the fuck home.
It's fine. I'll come back and get you when I'm more successful and can get you a nice home somewhere. It's one of those things where the parts of this movie really did not age super well. And the parts that did age really well are the parts that everybody knew was going to age really well.
Yes.
Which is the dance sequence, Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, And the parts that didn't, it's like not very surprising.
Yeah, basically all the parts you think of when somebody mentions the movie Swing Time with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, you're like, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, musical numbers, all aged well. Other stuff, not so much. Nobody ever remembers you bring up Swing Time to somebody, are they gonna remember Mabel and Pops? Maybe? Probably not.
Yeah.
They definitely don't know if they haven't seen the movie. The third thing they're gonna bring up is Bojangles and Blackface.
Okay, we should talk about that a little bit because
a little bit more.
Yeah, because it's really awkward because it just kind of happens. It comes out of nowhere, but I know that that's in there because you know the thing where people try and pay tribute to like white performers, try and pay tribute to African American performers, but in the olden days it came off as really fucking racist. That's what this is.
Really?
Yeah, the Bojangles was an actual like performer. I believe his real name was Bill Robinson. Bill Bojangles Robinson. He was an American tap dancer, actor, singer, all these other things. Fred Astaire wanted to do this as a tribute to him.
Huh.
But the thing is, it's a tribute, but it's also Fred Astaire in blackface. So it's a thing where it's, oh, that's really sweet, and then you look at it and you're like, but it's kind of little tone deaf, little.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have a big think about how I feel about this one.
Because it's a thing where it's like, he meant well, but execution and age did not mix well.
For me, it's mostly just the age. I don't know. We might have to pause this one so I can ponder over how I feel about this execution here.
Look, we could basically get this out of the way. It's not like the fucking jazz singer, all right? It's not like caricature. Like, he doesn't do any like weird blackface like mumble voice or anything like that. He doesn't do really swingy stuff. He's not playing a caricature. He's just in blackface doing this really complicated dance number. That's incredibly impressive.
As a tribute to Bill Robinson.
Yeah.
This one's tough.
That one makes this a little bit more complicated, or...
Well, just in the terms of, because before I was kind of like, yeah, that, it's kind of like... I looked at that and I was like, it's kind of like not so great, doing blackface on the best dance number of the whole movie. Like, it kind of like spoils the whole thing, I'm sure somebody probably told him, being like, hey, you really want to do this? This is the biggest dance number of the whole thing. And he was like, yeah, nah, I really want to. But if you really wanted to pay tribute, was Bill Robinson still alive when this came out, or had he died? Let
me see. This movie comes out in 1936. Oh, he was alive when this came out. In 1949 was when he passed.
Can we take a second? Did he comment on it?
Let me check. Okay, so we are back now, and it looks like we cannot find Will Robinson making any comment on Fred Astaire's tribute.
I'm gonna come at this issue like this. Fred Astaire wanted to pay tribute to Bill Robinson, Bojangles, and he wanted to do something good, which is why he made such a pivotal moment of the movie, the biggest number he did with the most technically challenging.
It also is the most non sequitur dance number because it doesn't connect to the plot in any way.
No, not even when he's backstage in blackface does it connect to anything. It's not like anybody's like, oh, you should take that off before you talk to me, or whatever they would do in this kind of movie. They just kind of go like nothing's happening.
Yeah,
he just was a little insensitive about it. He didn't think from the perspective of Bill Robinson seeing him do this tribute for him. He thought the idea of himself watching himself do a tribute to Bill Robinson. That's kind of how I see it. He didn't think from Bill Robinson's perspective. He thought kind of selfishly of his own perspective of himself doing a tribute to Bill Robinson. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I'll look at it. It's a nice tribute, but it's very tone deaf and insensitive. I'll put it. I can go with that.
Well, just that he did it selfishly.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll line up with that. He was very.
He missed the mark.
Line. Yeah.
He missed the mark.
It kind of sucks because that's one thing that makes me hesitate to, I guess, recommend this movie. And mostly because it's like,
well, okay. I don't have hesitations in not recommending this movie.
Well, here's the thing.
I thought it was worse than Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Well, here's the thing. I like Yankee Doodle Dandy. My thinking is this is still an impressive movie in terms of the dance number, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Yes, the determination to make this movie good.
Yeah, and I'm like, honestly, giving it a watch, yeah, there's some parts you're probably not gonna like, but once the dance numbers get going and it starts being the musical part, it gets way better.
You just kind of have to lean back and just let the dance numbers kind of take over, just lean back in your chair, and just watch Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers just
Do their job.
do their job. Just go. Like, if you kind of can get that, like, glossed over, you know, just kind of, like, letting it unfold in front of you and not trying to, like, think about what's actually happening. If you kind of, like, are in that mood, I think Swing Time is actually a pretty good movie for that mood. You just kind of, like, let it happen.
Yeah.
Don't think too hard about anything that's happening. You
Just let it roll.
Let it roll. And I think it's a good watch. But if you try and, like, kind of analyze it as you're watching it, every little thing you, like, brush your hand against just falls over.
It's because the script here feels so thin. It feels like these are problems that I think that's the issue I have with a lot of musicals and comedies and things like that of this era. 90% of the problems could be solved with a phone call.
How do you feel?
If Fred Astaire called back to Mark and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I found this other girl up here. Goodbye." I think it would the movie would end almost immediately.
I see what you mean like that, yeah.
Or
that makes a lot of sense. I think, like, the main problem for Swing Time is I'm sure that there's more pages of, like, musical, like, sheet music than there were pages in the script.
I would probably argue that is accurate.
Like, that's just true. Like there's probably more effort done in the choreography in this movie than there was in the screenwriting. Like, that's just true.
I mean, Fred Astaire spent 8 weeks prepping for the dance numbers in this film. So he went off he went off to the mountains, ran up, down, in the driving snow, blazing heat, pulled a monkey up his back. There's a whole thing.
All I can imagine right now is when you said, like, oh, he spent 8 weeks, and then you describe him running up mountain. I just imagined the Rocky montage, but instead it's Fred Astaire dancing all over it. Him dancing up the steps in, what city is it?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Him dancing up the steps in Philadelphia and doing a little jig at the top.
Could you imagine? It's just like you have to do a tap number for the 30 blocks Rocky does every morning.
Exactly.
That's his technique. But yeah, it's one of those things where this movie is impressive. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. It's just, my God, this is not aged well at all.
No. This has honestly made Yankee Doodle Dandy feel better for me in hindsight. See, we talked about this before, where maybe, you know, we're going to watch other movies and it'll make us feel differently about movies previously we had watched. Yankee Doodle Dandy, I felt, aged a lot better than this movie because it was set, like, more firmly in its time. Well, Swing Time, you know, you kind of want to, like, feel like it could take place in the 20s or 30s or some spanning era of that, you know, but it just, I don't know, it tried to like span itself to, like, you know, maybe future audiences, and just kind of fell flat, while Yankee Doodle Dandy was like, no, we're trying to hit these specific audiences, we know where we're going for.
I can kind of see where you're getting at. My whole thing with Yankee Doodle Dandy, it's like the parts of it that are bad are not content related.
Yes.
It's like closer to just like the performances in the movie are not bad, they are just not nearly as good as James Cagney. They're very basic. This one, there is a glaring pops in the room that will grate you the wrong way.
Yes.
Or the plot of this is so paper thin that I keep going back to that phrase.
It just is. It's factual. The plot is weak.
Yeah, the plot is so weak that you're like, I want to be engaged in this, but it's like, I really don't care. I just want to see them dance.
Yeah.
And that's probably the thing about this movie.
The movie would do better as a montage of just them dancing, you know?
A little bit. Like, very basic. Honestly, that's kind of what it turns into. Very basic opening. Then the only reason we have the plot is to get us the 10 minutes in between the dance numbers, and then that's the movie. And
Yankee Doodle Dandy does that better because it doesn't even pretend that the movie is not just going to be a montage of James Cagney, you know?
It's true.
There's no pretense that the movie is not going to be a montage of the different eras in which James Cagney danced.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the freaking movie.
It happens.
Swing Time, it's like they make this like little baby plot just, you know, to throw him a bone and be like, yeah, sure, well, we'll pay a screenwriter or whatever. You know, give him $10 and send him on his way. To just, you know, all right, Fred Astaire, we're going to spend Or $300,000 on the fucking Bojangles line, or in the Bojangles sequence. You better make it fucking good.
we're gonna give you a third of our budget to blow our socks off. Couldn't win a choreography award. What is this?
Shut the fuck up.
I'm sorry.
It deserved that choreography award. I want them to retroactively take it away from Great Siegfried.
You want to know the craziest thing? This is the last little tidbit I'll get into, and then we'll get into I guess the AFI spot. So when Fred Astaire did his first screen test when he came to Hollywood. This is the guy that's going to go on to be probably the biggest musical theater dancer of the 30s into the 40s. Him and Ginger Rogers are going to be the greatest dancing duo of this era. He's going to go down as one of the best showmen, right? Yeah. Hitting his screen test, the notes were can't act, can't sing, kind of bald, can dance a little. That was his first screen test. That was the comment they gave to him.
You know what? They were kind of right.
Yeah. And Fred Astaire commented on that. He was just like, see, they said here I was balding. I remember it said slightly balding.
What a guy.
Yeah.
What a lad. What a response to that.
Yeah, Fred Astaire is one of those guys where everything I hear about it, I'm just like, God damn, you just sound like a really interesting and
I heard
cool
behind
dude.
the scenes that Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers kind of had this catty relationship where they would kind of poke and claw at each other, but you knew that they were they got along.
Yeah, I mean they made 10 movies together. It's one of those things where as they go on, they say it's Fred Astaire has always said, "Oh, Ginger Rogers is my greatest dance partner." Ginger Rogers is there's no better dancer than Fred Astaire.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time you get the catty comments of Fred Astaire's I mean, I carried Ginger Rogers through all of our choreography. I did all the work. And Ginger Rogers Fred did all the work, but no one was looking at him. It was one of those things where I had that kind of catty back and forth, and I love that. I love that old Hollywood thing where it's they respected each other.
Didn't
but
she say one time being oh, he only thinks that he does the dancing so well because he doesn't have to do it backwards and in heels like I do.
It's fucking truth, dude. Honestly, that's one of those things where Fred Astaire, he's probably one of those guys who looks really slender and really nice, but could probably do a triple backflip without touching the ground.
True, he could probably bench more than the script could.
Yeah, but then I look at Ginger Rogers.
Seeing the weakness of the script, it probably couldn't bench the bar.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's Fred Astaire looks slender, but he's probably he's super athletic.
Yeah.
But then I look at Ginger Rogers and I'm like, this woman is the most graceful person I've ever seen.
She looks kind of dainty. It's just kind of this dainty little nice girl, and she just freaking owns the stage,
Yes! I'm watching and I'm like, okay, she can't be doing this in actual fucking stiletto heels. There's got to be flats in there.
She really is.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, Becky complains about wearing heels for an hour at a wedding. I can't imagine asking somebody to do 48 takes in stiletto heels for a tap number.
I mean, but, it's Ginger Rogers.
It's Ginger Rogers, yeah.
Hey.
Well, it's one of those things where it's I'm just so impressed by the fact Ginger Rogers can do these things.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire in this. They definitely carried this for anything good in this movie is involving them, basically,
100%.
Except for one or two lines from Mabel. Yeah, except
Raina's
for
my girl Mabel.
Except for one or two good lines from Mabel, and maybe. I don't know,
there's one bit from Pops.
No, there's Ricky, how he has that evil villain thing where he's I've taken your girl,
Yes. I also like how Ricardo Romero, it's he's supposed to be this oh, the foreign heel in wrestling where he's
actually, yeah.
I'm the dashing man. Ho, 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 ho. But it's bro, you're everything I've seen about you, you're just okay, Lucky, get away. I'm trying to pick up on Penny. He never does anything evil. I'm waiting for him to do something evil. I'm waiting for Billy Zane to show up in Titanic.
How he kind of portrays himself around Lucky is that kind of villain-esque, oh, you will never win her heart. Her heart is only for me.
Pretty much, yeah.
He kind of presents himself as kind of this over-the-top villain to Lucky, which is I think it's kind of fun sometimes in the movie.
It is kind of fun. I think that's the thing. The movie, even at the bad parts, it's still kind of fun.
Yeah, the bad parts are kind of fun sometimes, except most of the pop stuff. I'm not gonna budge on that one. Most of the pop stuff is kind of real cringe.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know, I can't really get into the comedy. The comedy in these older movies where it's Pops runs towards the train
and his luggage explodes.
The luggage explodes, and it's if I was Fred Astaire and they had just not only made me miss my own wedding, but also stole my money and made me miss my train. I mean, and then Pops lost my luggage. I wouldn't just be oh, Pops, that look at you, you know, always bumbling around. All right, come on here and get on the train. Help me to my journey to New York. I'd be like, get lost, asshole.
Pop's one of those guys where I know why he's in the movie.
Yeah, he's at least like a comic relief.
Relief character, but I'm like, man, oh man. He does not really help this movie's overall quality.
He was probably fine then.
Probably. No, he was probably like a laugh riot of this comic and musical season. But like, at this point I'm like, he's so dated.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible thing to say about like when we're going through all these movies where it's like, oh, it's dated. Yeah, some of these movies are very
going
fucking
to be
old.
dated. Well, but some things are ageless, you know, some things are timeless, you know, like some of Mabel's like comebacks. They were still great. I laughed out loud at some of them.
I heard you. Heard you in the back of the theater.
Yes, in the back of the theater, yes. And, like, the dance numbers, I mean, like...
Those are timeless,
Those are timeless, like, obviously. Except for Bojangles.
Yeah. Like, there's probably a better Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie than this.
Oh, that's something we can talk about. There probably is a better, like, musical of this era that could be on this list. Maybe another Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movie, since they are such a great duo on screen. Well, and also... Not saying that this is the reason why it should come off the list for a different Fred Astaire or Ginger Rogers movie. But I'm sure the AFI would take one for the team there. They'd be like, oh no, of course not. But I mean, like, if the AFI could move this around for a different Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie that didn't have blackface in it, I'm sure they would be all game for that.
I mean, that is expressly why they took off the jazz singer. Like, literally, they made the comment that it's like, the jazz singer portrays something that we find to be offensive and we do not want to support the film, so we'll replace it with something else. In jazz singer, it's like really offensive.
Yeah.
It's really, really offensive.
And here in Swing Time, you can kind of like, huff some copium, being like, well, it's a Bill Robinson tribute. You know, it's for the man himself, Bojangles. Like huffing copium, you know, being like, no, it's fine this time.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's one of those things where I'm trying to imagine how many movies would fall off for instances of blackface.
Well, there's only one movie that would come on that would have instances of blackface, but that's because it's making fun of old Hollywood, or Hollywood sentiments, basically.
Can we please get Tropic Thunder on
That's
here?
Tropic Thunder.
Let's go.
It's making fun of, it's making fun of the fact that Hollywood would be like, if they could get away with it, they fucking would.
Yeah.
Like, if they were like, we could make $1 on blackface.
With Robert Downey Jr. in blackface? Let's go.
Yeah. The movie itself makes fun of the fact that the movie itself is doing that.
Yeah. But interesting thing about the whole Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, yes. Why it's on here, because we're just going to get to it. Because it's spawned on the AFI's number 90, and it was only added to the 2007 list. It wasn't on the 98 list.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason, at least people have assumed since the list was updated, is that it was on there to represent Astaire and Rogers because they were considered some of the most important and popular musical and dance stars of the Hollywood Golden Age.
Yeah.
And they were not represented anywhere on the 98 list.
Okay.
So people are like, hey, these guys are really important. You should probably do that. Dance movies have been a thing forever. This movie, I can see why it's on here. Represent Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. It's a really good fucking, musical numbers. It's a probably great representation of their talents. But as a film, I don't know.
It's weak.
It's a little weak as a film.
It's weak. Overall, I'd probably only give it like a 6. Or like a 5.
Really? Middle of the road?
It's pretty middle of the road. Now, I'm not one of these people that like rates things on a scale of 1 to 10 but only uses 6 through 10, because I know there's a lot of people that do that,
where 7 is their average.
Yeah, 7 is the average on their lists. Yeah, no, I'm not one of these people. I use all the numbers, and I'd put this about a 5 or a 6. It's average, maybe I'll put it with a 6, a solid 6. It is above average, but nowhere close to being a 7 or an 8 or a 10. It's there.
It's
above average.
It's one of those things where we're gonna get to a movie like this where it's gonna be kind of old and the comedy's still gonna hit, but it's gonna be a thing where it's probably gonna be a minute. Because don't get me wrong, like, I like older movies. Like, I really enjoy the Universal monster flicks, but they're not comedies. I can't think of many comedies from this era that have dialogue that I really enjoy. Because I like silent comedies, like Charlie Chaplin's timeless.
Yeah, because they're all slapstick, and all that good stuff, and that's still funny today. But like the dialogue is gonna, in like maybe if we have another of these old black and white comedies, the dialogue, I don't know, might not hit.
I mean, we do have the Marx Brothers with
Oh.
Night at the Opera and Duck Soup. Both of those films are considered like their best.
Okay, so we'll see when we get there. I'll see.
Yeah, and I mean,
Now
there
here's
you
the thing
go.
though, I will not be holding my breath.
You will not be holding your breath.
I've heard a lot of good things about the Marx Brothers, but I don't know if this is what I have to go on of these black and white comedy.
You're gonna be a little.
Although this isn't a strict comedy, you know, it's a musical first and foremost, musical
Yeah.
dance number type of. I'd actually probably put it as a dance movie before I put it as a musical.
It
This
is
is
the
a-
step up of 1936.
Yes, basically.
That's an interesting thing because it's like dance films as a genre. I know they exist and I know they were really, really popular for a long time, but now I'm like, I can't think of many movies that are just dance films.
Well,
That aren't those like step up, like direct to video movies.
Flashdance, does that count?
I guess that counts. That's from the 80s.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, because I couldn't, there probably aren't really any from the 90s?
That aren't those like,
Direct to video.
or like bring
Tra-
it on if you change it to like cheerleader stuff. It's
No, but what about Magic Mike?
Magic Mike is the swing time of our generation.
Shut the fuck up. No, there's no swing time of our generation. That's just rough.
I think this is probably the time we should wrap it up then.
Wrap it up, you know?
Yeah. Final thoughts. We
Oh
didn't
no,
even
you need to do your spiel, and then I do my final thoughts. Ho ho.
Oh, well. I wanted to ask you this because we didn't actually say. You're thinking up, down, on, off,
Down.
down,
Down, off.
Either 100 or off.
100 or off. You know, this is actually making
Yankee Doodle
Yankee Doodle
rise.
Dandy look a little better.
That's been my thing. Like my standard is like you got to be at least better than Yankee Doodle Dandy. That's my standard. I measure
also,
everything by.
you know, if I'm like the movies of this era, you know, it's so unfortunate that I get like exposed to those two movies of like this kind of era because they don't look so good.
They don't look so hot.
They don't look so hot. So I'm thinking like more movies of this era are gonna be like this. Oh no, I really don't want to be that guy.
Remember, we're in the 90s, but we
Yes,
are going to break
yes,
into
yes.
the 80s next week. Finally, we're going to get to a movie from the 90s, but it's in rank number 80. Whatever. It's going to be The Sixth Sense next week by M. Night Shyamalan.
I know you're trying to like
Get that wrap up.
get that wrap up and whatnot, but I'm looking at the list and we actually have one only 2 movies ahead after Sixth Sense, Bringing Up Baby, which is 1938,
Yep.
and that's a straight up comedy. So I'll get to see then. Or all the movies from this era, ones I will not like.
I will tell you openly, because that is a little bit away, because I've seen Bringing Up Baby. It is one of the foundational romantic comedies.
Oh no, I don't like romantic comedies.
I'm sorry. Cary Grant's in it.
All right. Night at the Opera is coming up at number 85.
We'll get to there. Okay, so... But next week, we'll be watching M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, starring Bruce Willis. It's a movie I have not seen in so long. I've forgotten
never
90% of it. You've never seen it?
I've never seen it, although unfortunately I do know the twist.
Everyone knows the twist.
I know, but it's unfortunate. It's the audience, they do not know that I watched that new Spider-Man movie without knowing that Jake Gyllenhaal was a villain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got to experience one of those things, you know, if that only happens the first time a movie comes out in the theater, you know, where you get to like realize the twist as it's happening. Oh, that made that movie so good for me, but the movie's not, now in retrospect, it's not that great if you know the twist.
Well, you know.
Well, it's not even a twist, it happens like halfway through the movie, but for me, I was just like, no, Jake Gyllenhaal, please, your eyes. He's such trustworthy eyes.
Is it Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Gosling? Those are the two people you would definitely leave Cielo for.
Yes.
Yeah. But there you go.
So
So
we'll have Sixth Sense, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll get so engrossed in the film I'll kind of forget
I think
the
you
twist.
could. It's also one of those things that's going to be interesting because it's M. Night Shyamalan who had a lot of high promise in his early career, and then the Fire Nation attacked.
Oh no, you got to do the thing. Oh, this is over. Wrap it up. I can't after that.
Well, everybody, if you want to hear more of these dank memes and funny conversations, you can follow us on Spotify, Anchor FM, Google Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, and that is at the Film Odyssey everywhere. You can also find us on our YouTube channel, In the Frame, where you can find the Film Odyssey podcast, the Film Club podcast. And Randy, final thoughts?
Why do you have to do it in blackface? It just makes no sense.
Yikes. Bye, everybody.